Sorry, so I restart from the beginning. Welcome everybody to this new edition of 1 Hour is Europe, which is the post-holiday edition. Today we have the pleasure to have with us Jürgen Tiedje, Head of Unit Industrial Transformation at DG Research and Innovation in the European Commission. The topic today is advanced materials, and in particular, we're focusing on advanced material for industrial leadership, which is the new priority of the Commission included in 2024 World Program, demonstrating the increasing importance that advanced materials and materials in general are taking in the European level. Before starting and giving the floor to Jürgen, which is sitting near to me, and thank you very much, by the way, for participating to our webinar series, I would like just to remind you that you will have the possibility to intervene. So to do it, we kindly ask you to do what you have done as of now, claiming that you were not hearing me. So basically writing your name in the Q&A chat, and you will be called in order. Be ready in opening your microphone and camera because you are going to challenge Jürgen directly. Moreover, be aware, as written in the invitation, that the meeting will be recorded and will be published in our 1 Hour is Europe section in the Brussels office website. So in case you don't want to appear, do not ask any question. Otherwise, of course, you are going to appear on video. Given that, Jürgen, welcome. And we are very keen to understand what's boiling in the pot of the Commission, what concerns advanced materials, also because we know that there are also linked initiatives that are going to be launched hopefully soon by the European Commission. We are sharing the slides in a second. Here we are.
Okay, great. Can I start, Massimo?
Please.
Thanks a lot, first of all, for the invitation to speak to you, to shed some light on this term, advanced materials for industrial leadership. You will have heard a lot about critical raw materials, the Critical Raw Materials Act. Why is this now a separate agenda, as an agenda linked? And I've prepared a few slides for you. Hopefully this is working. Oh,
try again.
I will try again. Otherwise, you turn the slide.
The other way you have to say next.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. Okay. So a short overview, zooming in. For those who are complete newcomers to the subject, what are we talking about, advanced materials? I will show you some Nobel Prize winners, but then we break it down to a daily practice. Who are the stakeholders actually engaging in this? And we start with a strategic agenda, bringing a bit more to the point what President von der Leyen announced in mid-September, an advanced materials initiative for industrial leadership. I will try now with the next slide, otherwise, yes, well, okay, these are right-minded people, Nobel Prize winners. One is actually missing from 2023. We had also a Nobel Prize in chemistry about quantum dots. Do we know what quantum dots are? Nanoparticles. Nano is like a little bit the top of your thumb. Even less, much less. And what do these people do? You can have nanometer-sized semiconductors, which have optical properties, and they help you to look for screens on your future smartphones. They can help you also when it comes to catalysts for the energy-intensive industries. So what I'm talking about here are materials which have new functions, new properties, magic powers, which normal materials do not have. And here you have actually the previous track record. You have Nobel Prizes in graphene. You have Nobel Prizes, and that's actually an area-wise a very nice one in physics. We all know LED when we're going home, our LEDs in the ceilings. Advanced materials. Gallium-based semiconductors. Energy savings of 90% compared to a normal bulb many years ago. This is advanced materials. And we had Nobel Prize winners also in 2019. This concerns the whole world of energy storage, batteries in particular. So these are materials with new functions, new properties, which make our world going differently. It's quite important. This sounds like a puzzle. But if you're getting involved, we're speaking about nanotechnologies. I mentioned a few examples. We speak about lightweight materials. So think about aeroplanes and the whole mobility world, all lightweight materials. We are moving to this. We'll speak about multifunctional materials, coatings. What do you have? We speak about two-dimensional materials, including graphene. You have chemicals in solid state, you have metals. Steel is a very old advanced material, nearly 200 years old. Composite materials, your mixture actually materials. This is all advanced materials. Again, this grouping should not seduce us that we go for different policies, one on nano, one on lightweight, and we would like to bring all this together. Let me start a bit with the stakeholders to give you a bit of flavor. The whole story we are facing is that stakeholders were calling for a change under the so-called Materials 2030 Manifesto. If you Google it, you will find it. What is the vision of these people? And this sounds very seductive and very easy, that we have a strong European materials ecosystem, bringing the stakeholders together, focusing on the green and digital transition, and to have a systematic collaboration of upstream developers, downstream users, citizens, and all stakeholders. This sounds very seductive. Okay. If you use a chip, you belong to it. If you develop alternatives for silicon, or you would like to reduce the use of silicon and chips, you're much more developing. And what you see here is also that we would like to focus on the next generation solution-oriented advanced materials. And you see here this nice circle. The interesting point is here, in my view, circularity, and the other one is digital technologies. If you normally develop a new advanced materials, it takes you many years to come to take it to the market. We're not speaking about 6 months. It's not OpenGPT. It might be easily take you 10 years. How can we reduce this? We need to move advanced materials research into the world of big data, analytics, AI, data governance. That is what these people were calling for. They were calling for circularity. So those who are working on composite materials, okay, let's go circular. They will look at you and say, but this is not crazy. This is where we need to be. Think about the composite materials we're using for so many things under the Green Deal. And in 20 years, they're not circular. What do we do here? So that was a big vision by a few stakeholders, ranging from Omicron to CA to Fraunhofer, big professors who were writing in 5 or 6 pages what to do and where do they see things going. It was 7 people. If we can go to the next one, if it's working.
Wait, you're managing.
I'm managing well. Somehow. Yes, thanks a lot. So we started with 7 stakeholders. And these 7 stakeholders called for a roadmap, and then they called for a strategic materials agenda. To put it now into very simple terms, we started with 7. Then we had 100 people, researchers, innovators, industry people writing what should actually be done. They developed a roadmap which you can find publicly. And these people, then 400, 500 people were developing a strategic materials agenda. So out of these ideas at the very beginning, this nice circle I'm showing to you, the people were thinking quite actively, what does this mean for mobility? What does this mean for energy? Where do we want to go? Very much bottom-up, stakeholder-driven. So we have enormous amount of stakeholders, technology platforms, industry engaging into this. This last led to an important step. I'm turning now to the world of Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe has the possibility to envisage so-called European partnerships. So for those who do not know this means we can foresee that we work with industry and researchers on a roadmap for several years. We reserve a certain budget, and then we will program this in our work programs, and we let the community play with it, and we ensure also openness. So this is a Commission proposal which is currently pending. It needs to be embedded in the strategic plan, which is a supporting document for Horizon Europe programming. The name is Iron for You, Innovative Materials for EU. The interesting point is here to focus also not only on composite materials, nanomaterials, we bring in something new, is also the 2-dimensional, 2DM and 1-atom thick materials. So imagine 1-atom materials. It's amazing. And you can do amazing things with this. And this partnership should come to birth next year. We are depending now on the agreement of the member states. Would like to build in also one element which you find in the last paragraphs. This is this whole question about safe and sustainable by design materials fit for the circular economy. We are working on something on the chemicals world and the materials world. So all of you will have heard about substances of concern in the chemical world, something which is not dramatic, but you would like to see it. But in future, you're looking for an alternative. And what does this mean then, safe and sustainable? So we are working on a big framework. So circularity, safety, sustainability of materials should also be part of this agenda. I explained to you already the Advanced Materials Initiative 2030, launched after the Materials 2030 Manifesto, at the origin of many stakeholders saying that with this manifesto out, we would like to set up something new. So the message I want to give you is stakeholders who are putting something in place which is new. If technology platforms, the chemical side, the energy side, Saskia, Emiri, IMAC, etc. These all people are working on something completely new. What we also have, and this is a challenge, I will recall to you, we would like to have a materials ecosystem. This means people talking to each other. We have national funding agencies who are currently organized in a so-called ERANET. We call it today a co-funded partnership. What do you do with critical raw materials? There's also a set of players. You have the Green Graphene Flagship, which should move into the scope program partnership. We have a Malta initiative dealing with nanomaterials. We have a European lightweight network. We have many players out. So the challenge for us is to bring them together into one ecosystem. I want to just highlight to you. Should you know another one, please let me know. I'm happy to help. No, it's not. I'm not blaming. We would like to have an inclusive approach. Not for the sake of inclusiveness, but at the end, it's about open strategic autonomy and where Europe stands. And that brings me a bit to the issue of industrial leadership. If you look into those two studies, they look reassuring. You think if you look at the columns on the left side, which is the Technopolis study, but these are looking at patent applications in 2017. You see here the blue column. Oh, it's not too bad when it comes to nanoelectron, when it comes to advanced materials, we seem to lead. This is 2017. You see also a McKinsey study on the right side, and if you look at also at the innovation capacity and the production, 2023, actually reassuring. Okay, now two caveats. The study on the left side looks at patent applications in 2017. We are now 6 years further down the road. On the left side, you see it's a big 10 European companies. You're not looking at the broad base, what is actually up. So what we are currently doing is the following. We've done a huge study. We're looking at where do we stand actually patents. Leave us aside whether patents are there to block things or not, but they are nevertheless an indicator. And you see here a nice blue line. And what you see is actually we are stagnating. We are stagnating on corporate patents for more than 10 years. Others are going up. China is catching up every year, doubling the number of patents. So we feel we are still in the lead, but we have to be careful that we are not losing. So we have maybe not a dramatic situation as in critical raw materials, but there's an upcoming issue. We're only number 5 in the world in terms of corporate patents. And that shows you a big difference compared to the previous studies where just looking at the Big 10, or you're looking at older data. So it's a signal where we think, okay, then you look a bit at the investments. Sounds very good, 2021, 35 billion euros. In the US, it's more than 3 times. It's huge. And you have other countries also start investing into this. And where do we go in advanced materials in the implementation of the Green Deal? Should we let it go? Should we put it aside? Or should we actually move? So the first announcement actually on what we want to do in advanced materials, and I would like to bring this forward, was the critical raw materials communication in March, which announced a coordinated plan of action with member states on advanced materials, including on substitution of critical raw materials. And the initial focus was on research innovations. This happened in March. What is the idea of a coordinated plan? The idea of a coordinated plan is to work also with national research programs, what they're doing in advanced materials. For those who are following the Critical Raw Materials Act, you will see that member states should do a lot. They should do a lot on substitution, circularity, materials efficiency. So it's not just about mining and exploration. And we think what we do in advanced materials is this second, is actually the other half of the same coin. So therefore it was announced in March. Things have a bit accelerated now since then. And this happened after summer holidays. So what you see here is on the left side, a letter from President von der Leyen, which it's a letter of intent, which she's always issuing to the Council and to the European Parliament. And what you see here is advanced materials for industrial leadership. And you see also in the Commission work program for October, advanced materials for industrial leadership. The message I want to give to you here today, this is not only about research innovation, we will go beyond. So we're also looking at how we have actually gaps within the industry. Be it the producers of advanced materials, be it the users of advanced materials. We're looking quite actively on this, also in terms of what will be the implementation challenges coming out of Green Deal legislation and many other things as well. So there is a shift of focus, a shift of priority. We go beyond research innovation. What does this mean? So there are some policy challenges out. The growing competition among leading companies for technology sovereignty, Green Deal, for example, clean tech and safe and sustainable by design chemicals. So clean tech, I will not now go into the details on the Net Zero Industry Act, which is a very hot file currently in town. But if you look into the annex of the clean tech, the key technologies, you think about hydrogen, you think about batteries, you think about carbon capture usage, you think about solar power. How often do you need actually advanced materials as a key to make this clean tech really working? And all of a sudden you will recognize actually that can play a key role. And that should be the first focus. The second focus I mentioned to us is also the chemical strategy. I will not embark on REACH today, that was already for the news. But what we have always foreseen on the chemical strategy is something very new, in particular for the materials in the chemicals community. Forget about regulation. Think about your researchers and innovators who would like to develop safe and sustainable by design chemicals and materials. What does this mean? Because in 10 years' time, the people will look also in the footprint of products and they want to know, is it dangerous? Is it actually sustainable? How was it produced? Is there an environmental footprint linked to this or not? So this is already out. So, and for us, this should become an element of industrial competitiveness. If you're good on advanced materials, it can contribute to enhanced industrial competitiveness in Europe. Here I complete the picture. Materials efficiency, what is this? Just calculate the amount of lithium we will need in the coming years. And Tiedje has done here a marvelous job in putting forward, an excellent job in putting forward the Critical Raw Materials Act. But if you look at the implementation of the Green Deal, I take the example of lithium, and many other examples. There's an endless appetite for critical raw materials. Endless. I don't want to say that we have to set boundaries, but we need to think, how do we cope with demand for materials? How do we cope? Can we use a little bit less silicon? Can we use a little bit less platinum? By using advanced materials research, it can have a huge difference. If you look at materials productivity, we talk a lot about energy efficiency, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and you all see it going up. On materials efficiency, materials productivity, we stagnate for 10 years. People don't care. If you build a building, the sooner you have some materials, but how many materials you actually need, where the materials are coming from, you do not think. So materials efficiency is a big point, and it should be combined also with circular economy. We are not only focusing on recycling, we should also focus quite a lot on designing new materials which are circular by design at the beginning. When you're at the recycling stage, it's already very complex. If they are designed for circularity, very easy. There's a net zero pollution emission. This is the environmental footprint, and I will soon come. I will nearly stop now because I cannot go now into much detail, but the overall strategic objectives at this stage I mentioned to you, this is coming from the Materials Manifesto. Develop a strong and inclusive materials ecosystem in Europe. We have top-class universities. Do they speak to the industry? Do the industry really communicate their needs to the universities? Big issue. We need to have an industrial competitiveness as really enhance this. This means we'll not focus on health, we'll not focus on agriculture, we'll focus on the twin green and digital transition and select some key sectors. We need to cope with this endless demand for materials, critical raw materials. We have to think about different types of materials, and it can make a big difference. Materials efficiency, circularity. A new aspect coming up is economic security. Economic security is a policy presented by the Commission in a communication in June. It is looking at risk of technology leakages, weaponization of technologies, and it's not only thinking about AI or about other thing or 5G, what could happen. It's also looking at the materials side. If we develop an advanced materials and it can be used for weapons, do we want to use it? Do we want to make it happen? Yes or no? Just think, nice example, who knows about materials which you can't see, aeroplanes. So there is an economic security dimension. On the other hand, we will also start thinking about international cooperation. We have leading countries in the world, Japan, Korea, we have the US. Can we actually build a system with like-minded countries? This was to shed some light on advanced materials, stakeholders, strategy where we are. I'm not in a position now to go much further, but I wanted to shed some light. That is actually a great initiative. We should come forward in the first quarter. I'm giving you my email address. Hopefully to getting many questions over afterwards. And thanks, Massimo, for having invited me today.
Thank you very much for this trailer about what is going to happen, if I may say so. For the one which are willing to see the movie, of course, we need to stay tuned until the first quarter of 24. But I think that basically we can challenge you with some initial questions because you gave us some ingredients of what is going to be the plan that is behind the implementation of this advanced material for industrial leadership vision. And I would like to warm up while the people are reflecting if and how to take the, I would like to remember that if you want to pose questions to Jürgen, please do it by reserving your right of intervening in the Q&A box. My first question is, you mentioned that you're planning to organize the plan in order to somehow coordinate and harmonize the effort of the different systems at national level. But we know, of course, that the advanced material world is very variated and probably the member states have different priorities that in some cases cannot match in full. So how do you think you're going to organize this somehow fragmented system of priorities in the field of advanced materials? Because it's so wide, as you also mentioned, that probably you are going to have some challenges in this.
It will be a challenge, so we need to give, first of all, a clear sense of priority setting. This is needed also that member states a bit align and want to cooperate on these priorities. I give you a few practical examples. How many member states have a proper research program where they prioritize advanced materials? 6. Many others, it's either in specific application, but no spillover effects between application or markets. Many others have nothing. How many member states actually embark on digitizing the design of advanced materials? 2. The United States, Japan, and others start thinking about it because at the end, I'm a bit more very provocative. What do we do if you're looking for a certain new material, photovoltaics, whatsoever, and you can design the properties in a supercomputer over the weekend? This is currently a dream scenario maybe for the next 10 or 15 years. But we should be careful. Who is leading on this edge will have a huge competitive advantage. Do we have a data infrastructure? Do we have really an element where we start having a common understanding on ontologies? Not. So we would like to convince the member states, not via harmonization for the sake of harmonization, but a common priority setting to say, look, it all makes sense to start investing in the digitization of advanced materials. It all makes sense also to focus on more on circularity, but it will be a local problem. So the coordinated plan is not legislation, it's not harmonization, it's a soft way of coordinating and convincing the member states to go along with the same priorities. I give you an arbitrary example, digitization. I give you another example. Okay, should we focus on which new materials we need for photovoltaics? As simple as that. If all member states go along the same line, you have a huge leverage effect. Not only Europe. That's the idea.
Interesting. Meanwhile, we have the first question. We have David Peck from TU Delft and UCL, so two prestigious university. David, we have allowed you now to open your, so you can open your camera and microphone and pose your question to Jürgen.
Yes, thank you very much. Fantastic presentation, Jürgen. I put in the discussion, it's also a skills and knowledge challenge, and I think you touched on this. But that skills and knowledge challenge is also a time challenge. So how do we encourage and develop member states to ramp up rapidly? And I think it follows on from the previous question.
Could I take it immediately? Yeah. Thanks, David, for the question on skills. We should not leave this aside. I agree with you. What do we do currently at European level? Because we don't have the competence in devising a curriculum and tell universities, do it. No, we are not in this world. Universities are free under their national framework to set the curriculum. The only thing what we can envisage, but we want to do this, is to set incentives. How do we set these incentives? We have normally the European Innovation Technology Institute in Budapest, who are dealing with the KICs, the Knowledge Innovation Communities. And you have a Batteries Academy. And you might have soon a Solar Academy. You might have soon a Raw Materials Academy. These are not buildings. These are virtual concepts where you can charge one of these knowledge innovation communities to develop a skill set with one big proviso, get the universities on board, get the universities along that they finally accept this. We're encouraged by the model on the Batteries Academy, where KIC has developed this, and according to our knowledge, you have 7, 8 member states who go along. Why do we think it's needed? If I bring in the digitization element, it's already a challenge on its own. All of a sudden, material scientists need to learn about data science, AI, computational modeling to become daily practice. But we need to learn. We are currently engaging with big European organizations in this regard to learn also from them. We would like, hopefully, to launch a competitive call via the EIT amongst the KICs to move forward here in this regard. So we are working on this front as well. And thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, that someone else is putting a question, I would like to come back to the question of skills, because on one side you mentioned successful examples which are again on thematic nature. Now, battery, you mentioned batteries, you mentioned raw material. How to cover all the thematics area with related academies? Because I think there is an open issue today when we look to the skills that are booming. Also the Net Zero Industry Act is mentioning skills. The innovation strategy for Europe mentions skills because deep tech, the Green Deal Industrial Plan was mentioning skills, and the Net Zero Industry Act came out also in line with it. But apparently, as of today, the companies are not recognizing universities as possible upskilling and reskilling providers. They're not seen as potential source of this kind of thing. So we are having, as of today, a sort of a fragmented system, no? Where we have the KICs, which are doing something, but on the thematic areas that are built. And the material world is very, very scattered, as we already discussed, in terms of the variety of themes that it covers. So how do you plan to cover all the possible needs? You mentioned digital, you mentioned raw material, you mentioned batteries, which is an application of advanced materials.
Not only, it's also about manufacturing.
It's also about manufacturing. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
First of all, I think we should not think that we're going to be exhaustive. We need, together with stakeholders, find a very good way of prioritizing. So we are at the beginning of this agenda, but I've just bring in the digital dimension. Oh, is a mechanical engineer used to work with plastics? Just think about aeroplanes. How will they look in the future? Carbon reinforced plastics instead of steel. This is where the challenges are. What we hear from the material scientists, a bit a decreasing interest by students, because they also want to know, why do I do this? Why does this matter? Is it really for the Green Deal? Is it for the circular economy? We have a new generation of students coming up. Now, industry and universities, to keep them swinging together, that's of course a big challenge. But I'm confident if we have a good priority list at the end, we can make it happen. I think the magic will be not to have an exhaustive list taking over what universities already do.
Okay, and meanwhile, we have a former European Commission colleague, Dimitri Korpakis. So Dimitri, we are allowing you to speak. You should be capable to do it now. Please open your camera and microphone and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much for a very nice presentation. My question was the following. Could we be more successful maybe in identifying and developing advanced materials if we couple them with concrete industrial projects? Because like this, we could mobilize better all stakeholders or relevant stakeholders, invest in already acquired knowledge, mobilize the appropriate laboratories all over Europe, etc. So I know this is happening more or less, but it would be better if we, in my view, if we could focus on a limited number of advanced industrial projects and then define or trying to define what could be the advanced materials that could be going with these projects. And a very good example, of course, is what the Americans have done with space. NASA has developed a lot of important new materials because of the space exploration. This is an extreme example, but it's the same thing that we can do, for example, with other areas, with other projects, where we can focus on, we can combine, for example, the targets that we have, the objectives of our missions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri, for the question. I agree with you that we need to have a sense of prioritization. I was already indicating to you that when it comes to the Advanced Materials Initiative announced by President von der Leyen, I use still these broad terms, the twin, green and digital transition. That already means actually we are skeptical to embark at the same time at healthcare and agriculture. So we will narrow down in the coming weeks the scope of this initiative. On the other hand, we should not forget, if you focus too much on a specific application, you have no longer knowledge transfer what is actually going on. This has two disadvantages. So we should not be too narrow. There are two disadvantages if you go too narrow. First, if you would like to build a data infrastructure, you cannot do all the time it from scratch. You need to have a common academic pool, for instance, that they start exchanging information. What you can use in this application is offering actually great properties also in another application. and we lost sight of this. Japan and US are not doing this. And if you use the digital tools to make such transversal approach happening, all of a sudden you realize if you don't do it, you lose actually potential. This is a data challenge we will face. And the other one, I think we should be a bit more broader. We mentioned already skills to attract students, to give them also future market opportunities where they would like to engage in a spin-off or working in a big company.
Good. I have also another question to you, which is linked to the reaction of the member states. I suspect you're already discussing the plan with the member states, how they are reacting to this. They're positive, there are critics, they see many problems. Maybe you can share something with us about the first feedback from the group of member state representative of the member states about their impression on the plan that you're designing.
I'm happy to do so. We are currently in discussion with the member states. They are digesting currently a lot of ideas we gave to them. I would not say that I got hostility. I got much more actually interest how we can work together. Of course, also member states have their constraints. They have set out their national research programs, they have defined the funding streams, etc., etc. But I would say there's a lot of openness what we're actually doing. All the more that you have under the Critical Raw Materials Act already on substitution, on circular economy, concrete requirements coming up for the member states. So we are not setting a complete new agenda. We're actually working quite a lot to complete an agenda set by the Critical Raw Materials Act by a much more light touch tool, a coordinated plan with the member states. What do you want to do together on advanced materials? And imagine if on a certain priority, I was giving you the photovoltaics example, you can have trains, you can have cars. Say, we all work a bit along the same priority. It could have a huge leverage effect. And that we try to do. We need to think about the governance structure with member states in this regard. That is clear, but it's a bit too early days. But I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. But we have 27 member states, so
it's difficult to align all of them, and I understand this. But yeah, it's in any case very, very challenging. Also because another thing, and then I will give again the word to David that has another question for you. But you mentioned several times the Critical Raw Material Act, and of course there is a lot of interlinkages between the critical raw material due to the substitution that require research on new materials, where advanced materials can clearly play a role. And then now the strategy for advanced materials, which somehow encompasses partly the Critical Raw Material Act and partly the rest of the scenario. So the point here is, who is leading who? Is the Critical Raw Material Act leading the showing the street? Is the Advanced Material Act, is the two in parallel with overlaps and complementarities? How this is going to be handled?
I do not want now to engage into the detailed negotiations on the critical raw materials.
I love to be provocative.
Yeah, no, but that's fine. But these will be two parallel agendas, but each on their own feet. Yeah. We will probably focus much more on research and innovation. If you look into the Critical Raw Materials Act, the whole issue about permitting, this is less relevant for advanced materials. And that's a big issue. Should actually the environmental impact of a future mine be considered? Should it fall under the Critical Raw Materials Act? Yes or no? So this will be parallel agendas, and we need to make very useful synergies. Just take the example of circular economy. Because if you use secondary raw materials or advanced materials which should be reused, clearly many common elements in this regard.
Yeah. We open again the camera to David, which is very active. Thank you, David, for this. We appreciate. You can open your microphone and camera again.
Sorry, yes, it takes a second to connect. Yes, thank you. And it's around defense and security. So in the Critical Materials Act, you quite rightly highlighted the big importance of low carbon net zero energy transition and also the digital transition. But there's also the defense and security of Europe, and that's important too. And my question's around the European Defence Agency, the EU side of things, and NATO. How could we explore closer collaboration with the two?
David, that's a tricky question. Let me explain and then I'll come back to it. In the world of dual use, certain materials with extreme properties you need. We normally take the line, we have the European Defence Fund, and what gets funded there is completely separate what we do under Horizon Europe. We have a clear separation. So unfortunately, the most recent developments has been shown we need to think a bit differently. And I give you the example, for instance, our defense, the CHIPS Act, for instance, is a good example where defense is also mentioned. I think it's a valid question. We have a little bit to think how we handle this. Because when you embark on it, you have also the international dimension, economic security, I mentioned to you. On the other hand, there might be a mutual benefit to work a bit together. We are currently in discussions here, in particular with the colleagues in DG Defis, what could be done, who they want to engage in this agenda. Because, yeah, the world is changing, so we are very open to this as well. I want to just explain the context. We have a bit different arenas here where this will play. You should also be conscious if we embark into economic security issues, and there's a concrete one, and you would launch in future calls under Horizon Europe, which is our framework program, it would immediately lead to a limitation of proposals from outside Europe, which is quite a big thing, and not easy for many people to understand. So fine line to be found, but the door is not closed, or the country is actually open.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We have now also a question from Finland, Janika Lukinen. I suspect is the correct pronunciation. Janika, correct me if I was wrong, and you can open your microphone and camera now.
Okay, thank you so much for the interesting introduction to the topic. My question was concerning the format of the proposed partnership I'm for EU, and you as a candidate partnership, it has been proposed as a co-program one, and then following up on the issue, we've heard also that some member states would be pushing for a co-funded one. Do you see that the final outcome of the negotiation or the strategic programming practice would influence then what we've talked today about the priorities and the objectives of the advanced materials all in all? Thank you.
As a stakeholder, I'm in favor of the co-program.
Three observations in this regard, and thanks for asking the question. This question, should it be now a co-funded or co-program partnership, is in my view a bit overshadowing the rest of the debate, which I think is a bit of a pity. Personally, I believe we need a co-program partnership to get also the industry involved, because a co-program partnership means it's not only we give public investments, we would like to see also private investments and a concrete engagement. My third point is the current discussion should not be seen like not being inclusive. We need to find a way to build also on what we got from the national funding agencies, this Meranet, which exists. It should be then a co-funded partnership. And I think at the end, I'm pretty optimistic that we will find a way forward. We put some good ideas to the member states to chew on. I think we are a bit living in a changing world. But the message I want to give is not that you decide now against a co-program or co-fund one. We want to be inclusive, and we need to find a way forward. And the other point, since you are from a university, if you allow me, for me, we are defining also quite actively how can we have a better feedback loop between industry and universities. And mine even going down to the world of fundamental research. Why? You have many important research projects run by the industry. They discover a fundamental research question. What do? They shrug their shoulders, saying, we have no time. And it's not going back to the universities actually to look at it, although it's a fundamental question to be looked at. And that we have to change. So the answer is to be inclusive. I hope we get support for the co-program partnership, but the national and regional funding agencies, we need them as well for the upcoming debate.
And on the other side, if I can add, I mean, this goes in line with your initial statement where you said that basically the priorities are based, but the way we are going to design it will be based on the priorities coming from the member states. So somehow the presence of industry can be a way of reading where we should invest.
Yeah. You know, I think the big issue is with the industry, and that I heard a lot from the advanced materials community. I don't want to call it a disconnect, but many member states tell us when it comes to the interaction between academics and the industry, it's not easy. Yeah. So, and that we have to change. We have to change this under the Green Deal.
We have Slovakia, Milan Sikora. Milan, if you want your microphone and camera.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for a very nice presentation and for letting me ask the question. I'm new to the process and I just have a sort of organizational question. How do we best engage in past this webinar? How do we best engage in contributing to shaping the agenda on the advanced materials programs and so on? If you can kind of walk us through a little bit, that would be very helpful for me. Thank you.
I've given you my email address to be as simple. You do not get a functional email address, and we take it from there and you explain what you actually need. There are so many players out. You have the Advanced Materials Initiative, but you have many other initiatives as well. Just express to me what you would like to do, and we will help you and we guide you. I'm actually very grateful. Slovakia, great country. Czech Republic, great country. No, we need you as well. So it's really great. Feel free to send me just a mail. You got it at the end on the last slide.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I hope I will not get now 500 emails, but if I get 100, it would not be too bad.
Well, you have only, at the moment that you're saying that you're available, there are still 78 participants, so okay. 78 emails.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, okay, good.
Thank you very much, Milan, for your intervention. We are approaching the end of the meeting, so I think we can still accommodate a couple of questions. One, I take my privilege as coordinator to touch on another dimension, which is to make happy a person which is in the room, the citizen involvement, the role of the customers and the social aspects related to the topic. Because, of course, you said we need to recycle, we need to go in circular economy, and this passes also through the right education and the right mentality of the users, the end users, which are the citizens. So is the plan thinking about it? Have you got this dimension?
We got this dimension. It's already embedded also into this materials manifesto I was showing to you during my presentation. The challenge we will face is, in today's time, a citizen focus not on the material, but on the product. If they buy a product, then they want to judge. They do not know that 80% of a product is actually the environmental footprint of a product is defined as a design moment of a product when you bring in the materials. This I do not know. I think it's a fair question you ask. We have a bit to see how we go about it, to be honest. Because as I said, citizens focusing on products. Chemicals is a huge issue. Tires somewhere in a river, etc. Then they all wake up. But if I point, and I'm pretty sure we as a partnership, but also via other actions, we should find a way forward to engage.
So you have open-minded approach.
I'm very open-minded to that.
To receive also
but it needs to have incredible impact. That's very important.
Very good. I see Angela Lis asking to intervene. Angela, can you just introduce who you are? Because we just have the name. So you have now the possibility to open your camera and microphone, I suspect, probably. Or the system is refusing to let us doing it. Apparently we have a technical issue. I don't know what is happening.
Only puts the question into the chat.
Well, Angela, sorry, but yeah, you don't want to intervene. If you want to write your question, I can read it for you. That could be done easily. Meanwhile, that Angela write her question, I would like to ask you maybe a more challenging question, but I don't think there will be a correct answer, but maybe a sensation and a feeling. We are going to add 10 new partnerships according to the rumors, you know, and so now we are going to a total of 58, if I'm not wrong. Mm-hmm. While at the same time, we are currently facing the first rumors and first opinions about what should be the future for Horizon program, and especially FP10 to some extent, where the magic word simplification is coming out once more. I'm in Brussels since 2006, and I work in the Commission with the European Commission program since 1994, so it's a while, and always the refrain is simplification. You know, so at the moment we are, if you want, making the system a bit more complex because we are having 58 strategic partnerships. And the system is already thinking, well, maybe in the future we need to shrink them already, while the 58 are already the result of a big shrinking happening between Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. What is going to happen?
Well, on FP10, there will be soon big conferences. I know on Business Europe and EATO are organizing one end of November, and partnerships will certainly come back in this regard. If we set up a partnership now, when member states agree, it's quite clear then we have to look also into the next framework program. We're not doing a partnership just for 3 years. 3 years are very good to test new governance models, to test whether they're able to leverage. I was trying to explain to you that advanced materials is for us now a strategic priority to round up the Green Deal. We cannot do the Green Deal without materials. I give you maybe also 2 data because the 58 is indeed a very good figure. First, you need to make sure when it comes to the partnership that the money does not just go to the members of such a partnership. You have a healthy rule where I would say 2/3 of the money devoted in call to such a partnership also goes to outsiders. Why? The partnership can be very useful, in particular for SMEs, to set a roadmap where to go. If we need another simplification exercise of partnerships, I do not rule it out because we have had some partnerships we just carried over from Horizon 2020 using new name. We'll have to look at it. I'm pretty sure we'll get another mighty debate. But to be honest, on materials, we try really for once something completely new. Yeah, but we really try something new.
I agree. And I thank you for your answer because exactly the reason of my question was, are we building something that is going to simplify it in 3 years or not? And you clearly gave me the answer I was expecting, but it's always better to hear it from the Commission. Okay, if no extra questions are coming, I think we have reached the end of this appointment with 1 Hour with Europe. I would like to thank all of you for your interest, and I invite you to stay tuned because we are already working also on the next appointment for November. We are trying to find another appealing theme as the one of today. I noticed a peak of 100 participants, which was really, really great to see and to spot the interest you have in this appealing playfield that I have to tell you also my university is following with great interest. Good. So thank you very much for your participation and see you at the next 1 Hour with Europe appointment.